In New Mexico, in 1882, the town marshal and his deputies rode out on horseback to confront a rancher named Randall Bragg. They demanded that he surrender two of his men, both wanted for murder. Bragg refused. When the marshal ordered the arrests to proceed, Bragg reacted instantly, drawing his gun and killing the marshal and his deputies on the spot. Far from that violence, two longtime partners, Virgil Cole and Everett Hitch, were traveling across the western frontier. They worked as hired lawmen, restoring order to towns that had fallen into chaos. Virgil, a fearless and highly skilled gunfighter, was known for his calm precision under pressure. Everett, a former West Point graduate, had once served in the military but left in search of a life with greater meaning and fewer constraints. Years earlier, Everett had saved Virgil's life during a deadly gunfight, forging a bond that kept them riding together from one troubled town to the next. Their next job brought them to the small town of Appaloosa. Upon arrival, they met with the town leaders, who explained that Bragg and his men had taken control of the area, terrorizing the townspeople and acting without consequence. The sheriff and two deputies had once tried to arrest two of Bragg's cowhands for murder, but Bragg had intervened and killed all three lawmen. Since then, no one had dared challenge him. Desperate, the town leaders asked Virgil and Everett to take the job and restore law and order. Virgil agreed, but only on one condition: the town would accept his authority completely and live by the laws he enforced. The leaders hesitated, realizing this meant surrendering control of the town. Their debate ended abruptly when a woman named Tilda rushed in to report that Bragg's men were tearing up the saloon. With no other choice, the leaders signed Virgil's agreement. Virgil and Everett went straight to the saloon, where they found Bragg's men drunk and destroying the place. They warned them to stop or be jailed. The outlaws laughed and refused, claiming they did not recognize Virgil as Marshal. Virgil gave them a final warning. When they reached for their guns, Virgil and Everett drew and fired, killing them instantly. The following day, Bragg rode into town with his entire gang. After being warned, Virgil met him in the saloon and told him plainly that he was now the marshal and believed Bragg was responsible for the murder of the former lawman. Bragg tried to talk his way around the accusation, but Virgil refused to negotiate. He made it clear that from that moment forward, no man would carry a gun within the town limits. Any who disobeyed would be jailed, or buried. Not long after, a woman named Allison French arrived in Appaloosa. Everett noticed her first as she stepped off the train, composed and confident. Curious, he followed her into a cafe, where Virgil happened to be eating. Allison asked them to recommend a clean, affordable hotel. Virgil suggested the one where he and Everett were staying and asked Everett to escort her there. Later, Everett told Virgil that Allison, who preferred to be called Ally, had asked if he was married. Virgil was immediately intrigued. Though both men found her charming, Everett quietly stepped aside when he saw how serious Virgil's interest was. Soon after, Virgil and Everett noticed riders watching the town from a nearby ridge. When they confronted them, the men claimed Virgil's authority did not extend beyond town limits. Virgil disagreed. To make his point clear, he struck one of them with his pistol, sending a message that Bragg's influence no longer ruled Appaloosa. Virgil arranged for Allie to work at the hotel, playing piano in exchange for her lodging. One evening, as she performed, Virgil and Everett sat nearby discussing Bragg. Afterward, Allie joined them and questioned Virgil about his work, suggesting that his job required killing. Virgil corrected her, explaining that he only killed when the law required it. When she asked if he had a woman in his life, he said he did not. Later that night, a man insulted the bartender in front of Allie. Virgil reacted instantly, beating the man until Everett pulled him away. The next day, a town leader questioned Everett about Virgil's behavior. Everett calmly replied that Virgil always had his reasons, and that anyone who wanted his protection had to accept him as he was. Some time later, during breakfast, Allie happily announced that she and Virgil planned to buy a house together. Everett congratulated them, though the news surprised him. Their conversation was interrupted by a young ranch hand named Joe Whitfield, who claimed he had witnessed Bragg murder the former sheriff and deputies. After carefully questioning him, Virgil and Everett prepared to make an arrest. They found Bragg at his ranch and took him at gunpoint. When Bragg's men arrived, Bragg ordered them to stand down. As Bragg was escorted back to town, he spotted Joe and swore he would kill him. Virgil assured Joe he would be protected as long as he testified. While Bragg sat in jail, Virgil worked on the house he had promised Allie. She soon complained that he cared more about his badge than about her. Frustrated, Virgil sent Everett to speak with her. During their conversation, Allie flirted and kissed Everett. He pulled away, reminding her of her relationship with Virgil, and left. As Everett departed, he spotted Bragg's men riding toward the marshal's office. He rushed back and stood beside Virgil as the men demanded Bragg's release. Virgil sent Everett inside to guard the prisoner, then faced the gang alone. Calm and unafraid, he warned them that many would die if they tried anything. After a long pause, the men backed down and rode away. Later, 2 lawmen arrived with a judge to oversee Bragg's trial. With Joe prepared to testify, the case seemed secure. Soon after, the notorious Shelton brothers, dangerous hired gunmen, rode into town. Virgil warned them of the rules, and they kept their distance. At trial, Joe testified that Bragg had murdered the sheriff and deputies. Bragg denied everything, accusing Virgil of setting him up. Despite his smooth words, the judge found him guilty and sentenced him to hang in another city. During Bragg's transfer by train, everything went smoothly, until the train stopped for water. The Shelton brothers appeared beneath the tracks, holding Allie hostage. They demanded Bragg's release, threatening to kill her if Virgil refused. Torn between duty and love, Virgil ordered Bragg freed. The brothers escaped with both Bragg and Allie, leaving Virgil furious and humiliated. Determined to set things right, Virgil went after them on foot while Everett returned to town to bring back horses, vowing to follow his partner's trail. Virgil followed the fugitives across dry washes and open ground, moving with grim determination. Everett returned by train, gathered fresh horses, and soon caught up with him. Together again, they tracked Bragg, the Shelton brothers, and Allie through the unforgiving landscape. Everett asked how Virgil was holding up. Virgil answered simply that he was fine and reminded him that dwelling on feelings was a good way to get killed. Still, Everett could hear the strain beneath the words. By the following morning, they spotted the group camped near a river. At the same time, a band of native warriors began moving toward the area, clearly preparing for an attack. Virgil and Everett hurried forward, hoping to reach Allie before violence erupted. Instead, they found her bathing in the river, laughing freely with one of the Shelton brothers. The sight struck Virgil hard, but there was no time to react. Moments later, the attack began. When one of the warriors tried to seize Allie, Virgil and Everett opened fire, killing a horse and driving the attackers back. Realizing they all faced the same danger, Virgil called a temporary truce with the Shelton brothers. Reluctantly, they agreed. Virgil returned their guns, and the group rode out together. To avoid further bloodshed, Everett offered the warriors Bragg's prized horse as a peace offering. The gesture worked, and the threat passed. That night, as they camped by the fire, one of the Shelton brothers explained that they were only helping Bragg because he owed them money. It was business, not loyalty. Virgil warned them that Bragg was his prisoner now and that once they reached town, he intended to finish what had begun. Later, Allie sat trembling between Virgil and Everett. She apologized, claiming fear and loneliness had driven her behavior. Virgil listened quietly, then asked Everett if he believed she would betray him again. Everett answered honestly, saying Allie was the kind of woman who always needed someone stronger than herself to lean on. Angered, Allie suddenly accused Everett of touching her. Virgil did not raise his voice. He simply refused to believe her, choosing Everett over her accusation. They eventually reached a small town where Virgil intended to settle things once and for all. Before the final confrontation, Virgil spoke openly to Everett. He admitted that despite everything, he loved Allie and enjoyed her warmth and charm. Still, he knew she was not meant for a steady home or a quiet life. Everett told him that Allie was not cruel or immoral, only drawn to strength and authority. Her affection shifted naturally toward whoever held power. Virgil said none of that changed how he felt. When Allie joined them, she asked how they could walk so calmly toward death. Virgil answered that danger had always been part of their lives. Allie confessed her greatest fear was losing everything she had. Virgil promised to protect her for as long as she needed him. At the stockyards, the truth revealed itself. The marshal entrusted with holding Bragg was related to the Shelton brothers. It was a trap. Bragg, the brothers, and the corrupt marshal surrounded Virgil and Everett, turning the confrontation into a deadly ambush. Gunfire erupted. In the chaos, Virgil killed one of the brothers and the corrupt marshal. Everett shot the other brother. Bragg escaped on horseback. Both Virgil and Everett were wounded but alive. Allie ran to Virgil, terrified he would die. Time passed. Virgil recovered, though his leg never fully healed, leaving him with a permanent limp and a metal brace that clinked softly when he walked. He finished the house he had once promised Allie. Life in Appaloosa slowly returned to normal, though trust between them remained fragile. Then came the news no one expected: Bragg had received a presidential pardon. Soon after, Bragg returned to Appaloosa dressed like a gentleman, greeting the townsfolk as if the past had never happened. He approached Virgil in the saloon and attempted to make peace. Virgil rejected him outright, telling him that no pardon could erase murder. Bragg left without argument, pride flashing in his eyes. Virgil later learned from the judge that nothing could be done. The law had failed. Everett, hearing this, said that when the law failed, a man sometimes had to act on his own. Virgil answered that without the law, his badge meant nothing. Bragg soon opened a lavish hotel and began regaining influence. Everett realized that town leaders were already bending to him, and that Virgil's time as Marshal was ending. He also noticed Allie drifting toward Bragg, drawn once again to power. Knowing what had to be done, Everett prepared to leave. Before riding out, he confronted Bragg, striking him and demanding a fair fight. Virgil arrived and tried to stop it, but Everett asked for one last favor. Understanding, Virgil stepped aside. The duel was brief. Bragg reached for his gun. Everett was faster. One shot ended it. Everett reloaded, mounted his horse, and rode out of Appaloosa without looking back. By killing Bragg, he had spared Virgil from losing his badge and perhaps his soul. As the town faded behind him, Everett rode west, searching once more for purpose beneath the setting sun.